All right, test check 1, 2. How's it sounding? All right, test check. That seems to be all right. Let's go ahead and get this thing going. Sweet. So, hello and welcome to another Wednesday song feedback stream. My name is Zaak Kerstetter. I'm an Ableton Certified Trainer. And this is what we do here on the channel on Wednesdays is you guys send me your tracks and I listen to them and I give you my honest feedback on them. So the way this works for those of you who may be new around here is I just put a link in the YouTube chat that I've now pinned to the top of the YouTube chat. Click on that link. That takes you to the spreadsheet, and then you paste in a link to where I can stream your track, whether it's a private SoundCloud link, if it's Google Drive, whatever. I don't really care as long as I can stream it. That's fantastic. Put your YouTube name in there and maybe any notes or things you want me to focus on in my feedback. That's totally optional. And then I will essentially just go through the list from top to bottom and give you my thoughts on every one of the tracks. As well as other people in the chat in the community will also be around to give you feedback as well. Before we dive into the songs, I like to go through the general rules or the guidelines, I guess, for submitting a track and things you should be aware of. Number one, original tracks only. This is partially because if you're doing a remix or something like that, I can't tell what's yours and what's a remix. On top of that, YouTube auto copyright claims are very strict. Even if you remix something, there's a good chance that I'll get snagged for that. On top of that, ideally, unreleased tracks only for two main reasons. Number one, if you are sending me a track you've already released, then as I listen to it, you're not going to, or as I give you feedback, you're not going to go back and change your song. It's already released. It's already out in the world. So it's more useful to give feedback on tracks that are still works in progress. On top of that, I've been getting a few people who have been submitting tracks that they've released, and then I get copyright flagged for tracks that they've released, even though it's their song. So do me a favor, send me unreleased tracks. It'll make my life a lot easier, and it'll make your life also a lot easier. So yeah, so no remixes, original tracks, ideally, although I feel like, if it's just something you put up on SoundCloud and it's not, an official release or something like that, you're more than welcome to share it. On top of that, if you are submitting a song for feedback, it is highly encouraged, though not required, for you to give other people feedback as well. That way, it's a communal thing. Everybody works together, help each other out. It's one of my favorite things about the stream is not only hearing the tracks that you guys are working on, but also listening to the feedback other people have about your tracks. And different people have different opinions about music, and I think that's really useful and very helpful. And like I said, it's part of what I think makes this stream very special. Songs will be reviewed in a first come, first serve basis. So I'm just going to go kind of like top to bottom through the tracks. If you have more than one track you want to share at a time, wait until the end of the stream, and then I will get around to multiple tracks from people. That way we can make sure that we have time that everybody gets to hear their track heard. It makes sense why. But usually towards the end of the stream, we'll have a little extra time for people to submit more than one track. So if you have more than one, just send me one at a time and then wait till the end till we kind of get through everybody else, and then you can send me a second track. On top of that, you don't need to be here live for the stream to get feedback. You may not be aware that all of the videos, all the streams that I do get posted to the channel. They're not on the videos page, they're on the playlist page in a live stream playlist. So you can always go back later to review your feedback. On top of that, I use the same spreadsheet every single week. So if you can't make it live, you can just go to the spreadsheet, put in your link, and then I will review it in the order that I receive it. and then you can watch the video whenever you want. So don't feel like you have to be here live to make any of this worthwhile. And then you can always go back and watch it whenever you want. And then lastly, all feedback is free. I just do this for fun because I like doing it. It's enjoyable for me. It, I think, helps me grow as a producer, helps you guys grow as a producer. Everybody works together. It's just a fun thing to do all around. However, if you would like to help support the channel, you can hit the like button. You can subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Hey, what's up, Daniel? How you doing? I'm glad you enjoy the videos. So feedback is free. If you want to help out the channel, like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff is very, very useful. If you want to help support the channel, you can super chat in the YouTube chat, which is kind of cool. And then you can also check out the Patreon, which I think should be linked below, where I do extra streams and workshops once a month and all kinds of stuff over there that I would highly encourage you to check out. So that's kind of the pregame stuff, and then also check out the Discord. That's also a thing you can do if you want to hang out and talk with other people about making music and share some of your stuff. So that's kind of the idea here. As of right now, there is no songs in the spreadsheet. So if you are just joining us and you would like to send in a track, now would be a great time to do it because you'll be essentially first in line. Yeah, Daniel, take your time. Grab something you want to share, and if nobody else shows up for a little bit, you're more than welcome to submit more than one. These streams have been kind of weird recently, where like every other week it'll be really busy, and then the weeks in between it'll be really mellow. So last week we had a really busy week. The week before we had kind of a slow week, but usually takes a minute for the stream to start waking up and people to start joining in. So I mentioned I do the extra stream on the Patreon, but for people who just want to see more live stream stuff, I do Mondays are my office hour streams. So that's when I come in, and you guys are more than welcome to pop by, ask questions about whatever you want. And I do that 3 to 5 Mountain Time, same time I do this. And then Tuesdays I do the Patreon stream, and then Wednesdays are always the song feedback stream. So I do 3 streams a week, focused on making music with Ableton Live. Sweet. So the other thing I think is important to mention, especially for somebody like you, Daniel, who likes watching the videos, is that I'm always on the hunt for topics for new videos. So if you got ideas for things you want to see, a little 5 to 10, 15-minute little thing, you are more than welcome to toss those in the chat. What's up, Precinct of Sound? Alex, if I'm not mistaken, is your name on SoundCloud? I'm trying to it's really hard to keep track when people's artist names and their YouTube names and their real names are all different things. So, but yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I really enjoy the streams. Sometimes it feels like, I'm fighting against the YouTube algorithm, but that's just the nature of the platform, I think. There's not really much way around that. Yeah, and it gets even more confusing when their Discord name, their YouTube name, and their artist name are all different. And I'm like, I think I know who this person is that's talking to me right now, but sometimes it's hard to tell. Yeah, Daniel, no worries. I said I'll just be hanging out and yeah, talking to you guys until somebody pops something in there. Yeah, Alex, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's definitely a grind. and I appreciate you spreading the word a little bit. I feel like it's been like a really constant, steady growth, even though it's a little slower than I've kind of wanted it to be. But um, just hit 3,000 subscribers not too long ago, which is pretty sweet. I feel like there's a lot of similarities to trying to build a brand as an artist as there is trying to build a brand on YouTube or something like that, where it's like it's about being really consistent, releasing stuff. It's about being like really mindful of the quality of the things you're releasing, and it's just like staying true and just staying steady with it, and then not really worrying so much about the numbers and all the analytic stuff. I think the analytic stuff is kind of a trap. Just focus on doing your thing and, you know, doing the thing you love and enjoying that part of it. I know a lot of people who are at various stages of the game who get really frustrated by those analytics, and it ends up negatively impacting their relationship to music. Ryan, I would prefer if you, I mean, I guess I could stream it from Spotify. I just don't have to download anything. So don't send me any files that I have to download. But I prefer either like SoundCloud or Google Drive or someplace where I can just like hit play and it'll play, which I prefer not to do on Spotify. And then I mentioned that this at the beginning of the stream, but not many people are here at the beginning of the stream. Ideally, I prefer works in progress. I've had some issues recently where people have been sending me tracks that have been, you know, out and released and are on Spotify or whatever, and then I get a copyright claim, like an automatic copyright claim for somebody's track that they shared, because that's how the system works. It's all automated. So I have a feeling that if I play something from Spotify, it'll be in the YouTube database where I might get a flag for it. But if that's the track you really want feedback on, then yeah, send me a link where I can stream it. All right, we got first track coming in. And I appreciate you guys all coming by and sending me tracks. Cool. So I think there's a track from Daniel, I'm guessing. So as always with the first song of the stream, I'm going to do a little bit of a sound check. So let me know if it sounds too quiet, too loud, or anything like that. I'll turn it up a little bit. Nice, Daniel. I think you got a lot of really cool stuff going on here. But as you mentioned in the chat, the arrangement definitely needs some expanding upon. It sounds like this is kind of like a first draft of what you're working on. I think it's kind of like 4 different sections, right? If we want to like, you know, break down the arrangement, we basically have like an intro here, we got an A section here, we got a B section here, and we got an outro, which is really kind of the basic minimum you need for an arrangement. All these sections could be expanded significantly. I think there's a lot of like room for extra layers to be added in, a bit more nuance, a bit more change between each one of the layers or each section. I think would be really fantastic. So kind of going through it section by section, I think the intro sounds pretty good. It's a little quiet, I think. So I think you can turn up some of those strings and really layer up those strings, like have lots of different strings playing slightly different variations. And I think it's a cool way to give it this more kind of like orchestral feel. Because right now your strings sound good, but they sound a little small. I like the use of like the water flowing here. Yeah, and then you bring in this kind of like singing bowl sound, like right over here, without really a lot of time to develop it. So I think you could really develop more of those kind of like singing bowl, kind of like nice, kind of pretty percussive sounds into kind of being like arrangement part 2. So you have arrangement part 1, which is just going to be the like that kind of pulsing synth sound with the strings and the water, and then you have like the bowls come in and then add like a new level and like bring in different notes, playing different sounds, create almost like kind of melody with those kind of bowl sounds. It would be really nice. I like this part a lot. Same thing here. The strings sound good, but they just sound a little thin. So more layers, more volume. Just keep on slapping more strings on there till it sounds really epic. I like the bass sound a lot. Yeah, and then this little transition here, I feel like needs some love. I think number 1, it can be longer. And number 2, I think you can really dive into a lot of details, a lot of cool, interesting sounds, like sound effects, ear candy kind of things, to really kind of help build up this transition. And like, you don't need to do like a traditional EDM style build here. I think what you have is actually pretty nice. But I think get really creative with kind of like your sound design and lots of like little intricate sounds that could go right here to kind of help prepare the listener for the transition into what's, the kind of like a minimal drop. So you kind of like build up the energy and excitement, and then instead of coming in with a really heavy complicated drop, you have this very kind of minimal empty one, and that's a cool way to kind of like play with people's expectations. And then I think this drop area here, I think number 1, your kick is maybe a little bit too distorted for my liking. I think it also could be longer, so maybe layer it with a kick that has a bit more tail. And then you're kind of like snapping, clacking sound. You're using like a snare. Way too quiet. Needs some reverb. But I do think like there needs to be one other element happening here. Like I like the really fast synth and the very minimal drums, but maybe some like vocal chops could be really nice in here. And some hats. I think some like hats to help fill in that space between your kick and your snappy and clacking sound could be really nice to also play with the rhythm and the energy. And then of course this section needs to be longer. It's just like it happens. Like I like the minimalism, but it needs something a little bit more. And it just kind of ends there. So I feel like there needs to be a drop part 2 over here that's kind of like a variation on this first part here. The Astra is really cool. I could hear more of those kind of like bell chime, like wind chimes could go really good in here. Like lots of like cool, high frequency, very organic sounds could be a really nice fit to kind of like flesh out the outro a little bit. But yeah, really cool work. I think it all sounds good. I think just kind of like really develop each one of those sections into its own thing, and then really dive into some of the details in terms of like different layers that are happening there. Yeah, I think it sounds cool. I like the minimal beat, but toss some other stuff in there to help kind of make the beat groove a little bit more, and I think that'll make a huge difference in terms of like the overall energy of this track. Um, one thing that I think is really helpful to think about is like, where is the listener going to be when they hear this track? What's your desired situation for them to be in when they're listening to this? Is it they're like listening in the car? They're listening at home? Are they listening at a nightclub? Are they at a music festival? If they're at a music festival, is it like late at night? Is it in the afternoon? Like, is it at sunrise? Where do you imagine this being played, and where do you imagine people like listening to this? And then use that to help kind of guide some of your decisions you're making about in terms of like, how minimal can I do this beat, right? If you want to play this at a nightclub, you got to have a little bit more in there. But if you want to play at like a music festival, you can get away with maybe keeping it really minimal and really open-ended. So be thinking a little bit about that as well is a really helpful way I found in terms of making decisions in terms of like, how complex something is going to be, how many layers they're going to be, how epic it needs to be. Those are all kind of like decisions you need to make along the way as you're kind of filling out this arrangement. Sweet. Chat, any other thoughts, ideas, questions, comments? You could also go very kind of like future bassy with that drop if you wanted to, but I don't think that's really necessary. Yeah, Daniel, I think it makes a big difference to be thinking about that as you, not as you're starting a song, but as you're finishing a song. That can be really helpful. Sweet. Well, if anybody is just joining us and would like to send in a track, you can do so by clicking on the link that is pinned up at the top of the chat. That'll take you to the spreadsheet, and then that's where you post your link to where I can stream your music, and that's how I'll listen to it. Also, if you are enjoying the stream and liking the feedback and what we got going on here, feel free to hit that like button. That is a great way to help get more people in here. Yeah, I could see this going like a very future bassy kind of direction. I think you could play a lot with negative space in those situations, like deleting out sounds in between your, like a lot of your percussive sounds is a great way to create that kind of very future bassy where it's like you hear a bunch of sounds and then it's very minimal, and then you hear a bunch of sounds and it's very minimal, and that's a great way to create that kind of like bounce that a lot of those drops have. The famous saying about like, music, I think they say about jazz actually, but music in general is about, it's not just the notes you play, it's what notes you don't play or what's in between the notes, right? So using silence as a tool to kind of create that energy or create a change in energy is a really fantastic technique. Sweet. Next up, we got a track from Alex, who recommended checking out some Autacher, Boards Canada, Fortet, all fantastic recommendations. I haven't checked out the new Quiet Bison, but I am a big Quiet Bison fan. I think he's got some really cool like ideas and things he does. Daniel, I just did a tutorial on Granulator that's not quite Quiet Bison style, but it'll help if you're trying to do that kind of thing. And this old school classic dubstep style brings it back. Nice. Like I said, love that classic dubstep style. I feel like not enough people are still making stuff like this. I feel like it's around a little bit here and there, but I think this is a really solid work here, just in terms of like capturing that kind of classic dubstep sound, which is fantastic. I kind of agree with what you're saying in the chat a little bit. It feels like it's missing a little bit of something, and I think there's a couple different directions you can take it. So I'll throw out a few ideas that you can kind of take or leave. I feel like some kind of melodic element would be really nice. You have a few melodic synth sounds, but something that's like a little bit catchy, like a really like a synthy, plucky synth kind of line. They're just playing like 3 or 4 notes that kind of just like repeat. Might be a good way to kind of like, capture people's attention a little bit more. The thing I like to remind people of is that like, you don't need to have a melody in your song, but melody is how we remember songs. Like when you think about a song, when a song gets stuck in your head, the part that gets stuck in your head is the melody. So even songs like this that are not supposed to be like super catchy necessarily, having a melodic element that people can recognize and hear over and over again and be like, oh, like people connect with that. So that could be a really cool element to do in there. So I think you could do it with the synth line. So you could do it with something like, very synthy, or you could do it with something a little bit more organic, maybe like a little guitar riff or something like that. Could be really cool as a way to, add a little bit more kind of like organic human kind of instrumentation that layers with the more kind of like synthetic griminess of the rest of the track. And then the third option would probably be like a vocal sample, and like a really like find a classic dub sample, somebody singing, and then put a bunch of dub effects on it, or reggae sample or something like that you can put the dub effects on to make it sound very dubby. Could be a really cool way to, again, kind of like add a melodic element, but also really make it feel like this kind of, dubby dubstep. So I think those are kind of 3 different directions you can go with it, or you can mix and match them if you want to. I do feel like another way to help make it evolve a little more is I feel like the percussion could use a little bit more attention. I actually really like what you have. but it feels like it kind of always stays the same. That kind of hat pattern is really nice, but switch it up a little bit as the song progresses, and that's a great way to help things kind of change over time. Another thing I do want to mention that I noticed is right around here, you have this kind of like whirring, like weird phased out helicopter sound. I don't know what's to call it about. It's kind of going in the background. And then right there it just fades away. So this is something I think is important for lots of different styles of music. And this is a concept that, the people that I learned arrangement from, I would always talk about. And that's the rule of 3. Meaning that if you're going to have something change in your song, it's really effective if you have 3 things change at the same time. So either 3 new sounds come in simultaneously, or 2 sounds come in and 1 sound goes away, or some combination of 3 things changing at the same time feels really satisfying for the listener. And what I was noticing here is that you have your drums and all your sounds happening with this kind of whirring sound, and the whirring sound just fades away. Everything else stays. So only one thing changes at a time, and it feels a little bit awkward to me. So listen to this and let me know what you think. So you have that whirring sound, and then it just kind of fades away, and where nothing else changes. Which made it feel like it didn't feel as powerful as that could be. So either line it up so that ends when the drum beat ends, or have more things change at the same time. And I think that might be a cool thing to look into. But yeah, other than that, I really like it. I do think some of your synth lines could be a little bit more grimy and a little bit more aggressive. That might be a stylistic choice more than anything else, but particularly like this little bouncing synth line could, number one, be louder, and also maybe a little bit of distortion, a little bit of saturation wouldn't hurt. And I think there's another one over here. This guy here. Love it. Super cool, super interesting sound. A little bit more volume, and if it were me, a little bit of distortion. Not a huge amount of distortion, but just a little bit to help grime it up a little bit. I think that's one of the cool things about this style of music and this genre is that it's like very dark and very minimal, and also like a little bit kind of like dirty and grimy. And I think that, if I'm making this style of music, I want a little bit of that kind of like grit in there as part of it. So I would probably do a little bit more distortion, a little more of that kind of like messing with things a little bit, just to kind of give it that feel. Up to you if you want to go that direction. You can go either way. But yeah, the more I think about it, the more a vocal sample, even if it's just like 1 or 2 words with a bunch of delay on it every once in a while, will be a really nice icing on the top of this track. But yeah, other than that, I really like it. You do have a little bit of percussion changes. Yeah, and like this little fill right here, love it. More stuff like that. I might cut out that kind of whirring sound when that drum fill happens, just so it's like just that. But yeah, really solid work here. I liked it a lot. Chat, you got any other thoughts, questions, comments, ideas? Let us know. And if you are just joining us and you'd like to send in a track, click on the link, it takes you to the spreadsheet, and that is where you send me your track. And if you are enjoying the feedback, feel free to hit the like button. All right, so next up we got a track from, not sure who this is in YouTube. Nice. That was sick. I really dig it. I really dig the kind of like frenetic energy of the whole thing. And I've been hearing more stuff that's been sounding like this, and I'm not entirely sure what people are calling it. I've heard like different names people have been using. It reminds me a little bit of like kind of like some Igloo Ghost with like some Sonia Calico, and like, I don't know. I've been hearing like different people doing this kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, super fascinating. And definitely some like interesting choices in here that I wouldn't necessarily have made, but I think they actually work really well. So yeah, so start off, I think the big thing for me is there's a few things in the mix that I think if you clear them up a little bit, will make a big difference in how loud and powerful everything will be. And it seems like a lot of the focus I think needs to be on that kick drum. So first off, I like the intro a lot. Sounds cool. I think you could tone down the reverb on some of those sounds a little bit, and I wouldn't mind that, but intro's great. Yeah, so I'm hearing a lot of frequencies that don't need to be there with the drums. And so I think you're gonna have to go into that, however you made your drum pattern, and just go through with the fine-tooth comb and just really EQ out a lot of things. Maybe do a lot of like fade in and fade outs on your kicks, or like play with the decay on your kick a little bit to make sure you're not getting too many of like these like kind of clicking low end kind of sounds in there. And you might not want to hear this, but I think you can actually get rid of a few of those kick drum sounds and still get that same kind of energy and just have a bit more space in your mix. And I think that will be very helpful. I think your horns are a little bit quiet. I think the horns are one of the coolest things about this track. Like I said, I personally would have made the decision to combine these horn sounds with this kick drum pattern. But I think it's really cool. So make sure you can hear those horns all the way through. It sounds like some of the horn notes are really the right volume and some are a little bit quiet. So maybe a little compression on them, or just bring them up in volume. Here you've got a lot of reverb going on in the background, and there's actually a couple parts where there's a lot of reverb going on. It sounds like it's on your little percussive hit, that like 808 percussive hit. Dial back that reverb a little bit. I think that in a song like this that is so hectic and so chaotic, number one, mixing is a nightmare. And then one of the things that I'm hearing here is that there's just a lot of layers that have a lot of reverb, and the reverb is making it really hard to hear the actual layers that are in there. So dial back that reverb significantly, and that'll make a big difference. Now, I don't think you need to sidechain the horns to the kick, because number one, the kick is basically constant, which means it's just going to be always turning down your horns. So no, I would not necessarily recommend doing that. And this part's crazy to me, but I kind of love it. Like, it has this very wonky, out of tune, chaotic nature to it, but I think it's actually totally fine because of the rest of the song sounds. So I actually really like that little break there. I think overall the mix is pretty solid, Ryan. I feel like this style of music is very hard to mix to begin with, so you didn't give yourself an easy task to do it. Hey Jason, how's it going? Do you have reverb on your kick? That also might be something that it might be causing you some issues. It sounds kind of like you do, but maybe you don't. Yeah, here a lot of the percussion is sounding really loud to me. So maybe turn down some of the percussion and then turn up some more of those horns. Yeah, it's just wild at the end there, which I think is cool. I like it when people do cool, weird shit. But yeah, I think those are kind of like the main things I'm thinking about here, is clearing up some space in your low end by dialing in that kick a little bit more, toning back some of those reverbs, turning up a lot of the horns across the board, and then just making sure that like sounds that don't need to be there, get rid of them or turn them way down in the mix. And that's the easiest way to get a cleaner mix. Is the more layers and sounds you have, the more competition there is, the harder it is to get a nice sounding mix. But yeah, overall really cool. Like I said, reminds me of a bunch of kind of like weird, like experimental and industrial techno kind of things that people are doing. Also has a bit of kind of like a footwork juke kind of vibe to it. More kind of like a footwork vibe, I guess. But yeah, really cool, really interesting. I definitely would encourage you to continue down this road to explore, more of this style, whatever you want to call it. Chat, you got any other thoughts, comments, ideas, questions? Let us know. Also, Precinct of Sound wanted me to make a video on how to gain confidence in yourself as a producer to not overthink your productions. Without making a whole video about it, I think the best thing to do is deadlines and work faster. Like, give yourself a deadline of like an hour. Be like, all right, I'm gonna sit down, write a song in an hour, and like put a clock next to your computer and be like, all right, 1 hour, song is done, and just do that every day. And just by doing that, you force yourself to stop thinking about things and just make stuff. And then it's not really a confidence issue. It's more just like you're just so focused on working and getting stuff done that you don't have time to, overthink everything. That's probably what I'd recommend for kind of building that as a skill set. All right, hold on. Let me pull this up here. Next up, we got a track from Daniel. And once again, I do this between most songs. If you are just joining us and would like to send in a track, click on the link up at the top of the chat, and that's how you send me your track. Nice. That was super cool. Not nearly as dark as some of the other stuff you've sent in. I really like it. It has this very kind of like 90s hip hop kind of feel. With like a little bit of like funk thrown in there, but also still kind of like weird and abstracting a little bit. I feel like the intro, I wasn't sure about the intro at first. I was like, this is a tricky intro to pull off with the crowd sounds first into the kind of like far away beat. But I think it worked. And then like the crowd kind of fades away in a nice way. So I actually think like the intro is working for me. I'm feeling it. And I think that kind of intro can be tricky because sometimes it just sounds like the crowd ends and it just goes to a studio recording. I feel like overall, I like your use of the vocal samples quite a bit, and I think they're definitely adding a lot. I do feel like you might be overdoing it on some of the density of the vocal samples. I think you can spread them out a little bit more, and that will, number one, prevent them from feeling like they're getting like repetitive and they kind of wear themselves out. And I think it will also help kind of like create a bit more space in what's going on in a way that I think will be pretty nice. Here, obviously, there's not too many vocals, but as the song goes on, I feel like your bass line is a little bit too loud throughout the whole song. Super cool bass line, but just like you want in this style of music, unlike a lot of like EDM and things like that, you want the bass line to be audible, but like not stealing the show from the other sounds. And I think right now it feels like it is a little bit. Yeah, like here's where I think you can start to subtract some of the vocal samples out of there, and I think that's totally fine. Your claps also feel a little bit loud to me. I think you can probably tone those down a tiny bit, and I wouldn't mind that. But other than that, I feel like it might be kind of nice to actually help kind of supplement those vocal samples is like get a vocalist on this and just have them sing a verse or a chorus or something on that. And I think that might be really nice. You know, I'm not sure if that's something you're interested in doing or not, but I think if we're up to me, I would probably get a vocalist, and then that will also help give you more places where you can tone down some of the vocal samples to kind of like give it more of this, like, I don't know, it has this very live feel. It has a, like, you know, the band playing on a stage, partially just because of the intro. So I think having a vocalist on here, I think will give it a lot of that kind of like, I don't know, human feel that this track is kind of going for. I think the piano could be a little bit more complex than what it's doing right now, and that'd be great, but not totally necessary. But yeah, overall I really like it. And in the end got kind of like appropriately dark from what I'm expecting from one of your tracks. A little bit, I feel like a guitar could go in here really nicely as well, like a nice kind of like funk guitar riff. I didn't think I heard any guitar. It's like a synth part. Yeah, I think that's the last layer you really need in here. You need like a nice kind of funky, groovy guitar line to go in there, and I think you're going to be good to go on this. But yeah, overall, really solid. I feel like it's like I said, it's a departure from some of the other stuff in a way that sounds really nice. So really solid work. Chat, any thoughts? Thoughts, questions, comments, ideas? Okay, so you got a guitar in there, just one chord. Yeah, get some nice funky guitar riffs going on in there, and I think that's a great way to help kind of like really build up what's going on. I'm trying to think of like what this reminds me of. It reminds me of kind of like a funkier version. If you ever listen to General Patton versus the Executioners, I don't. Maybe it's them or maybe it's a different Mike Patton project. Uh, you get some like Mike Patton vocals on here to really kind of make it weird if you wanted to. But for those of you who haven't listened to the General Patton versus the Executioners album, you should check that out. Sweet. So next up, we got a track from Salix. Nice, really solid. I like it a lot. It's got this very kind of like natural, subtle feel to it. Kind of reminds me a little bit of like some Moderat kind of stuff going on here. Yeah, I think overall, really, really good work. It has like the synth work is really solid. I like it's this chill vibe the whole way through. Like the vibe changes throughout the whole thing, but without becoming like, I don't know, without changing too much. There's one big thing and a couple minor things that I think are holding this track back a little bit. The big thing that I think is the most kind of glaring thing is your clap feels really weak. It's like it's there, but it's just, number one, way too quiet. Number two, sounds a little bit, I don't know, could be more interesting. So layer up that clap and then turn up the volume on that. And I think that'll help. Like, people underestimate how important, snares, claps, those kinds of sounds are, because it's the give and take of how people are dancing to it, right? Like the kick is one direction and the snare is another direction. So the relationship between your snares, claps, snaps, and your kick is going to be super, super important. So here, the kick felt like it was working for me, but the clap just felt like it was like one person clapping very far in the distance. So beef that up a bit, and I think that'll really help the groove, and I think overall just make the whole song feel really polished. Other than that, there's a couple kind of like minor things here and there that you could take a look at. I know it's kind of the style to have this very long evolving arrangement. I do feel like your intro, while I enjoyed it, could be about 20 to 30 seconds shorter, and I wouldn't mind that. Like, this part's super cool, but like really, you could cut out the first 15 seconds of this and start there, and I would be totally fine with that. Up to you though, that's more of like a personal preference than anything else. And then, love this part, love the synth work, love how it builds up in energy. I like this part too a lot. Definitely could use some vocal samples though. I agree with what people are saying in chat. A little bit of vocals in here could go really well. Check out the track Eating Hooks by Moderat if you're not familiar with it. Those kind of vocals could go really well in here. I think it's Moderat. It should be Moderat. I always get my Moderat and my Apparat mixed up. Yeah, this part's great. Love this. Love it going to the synths. And then this part that starts right here, it's not doing it for me for whatever reason. Right after, once we get over here, it's fine. But the part that starts right around 412, 410, it's cool. I like the kind of chaoticness of it, but it feels like it's missing something. Maybe it's the low end. Maybe the bass needs to do a little bit more or something like that. It just feels kind of after the section before it. Like, this has this nice kind of rich, full feeling to it. I love this. This is great. And then when we deliver here, for some reason that delivery doesn't work for me. So take a look at that little section right there, see if there's anything you might want to change in it. And then afterwards, once we get over here, this part sounds great to me. But yeah, those are the main things I'm noticing here. But yeah, some vocal layers on top I think will be a great way to help kind of build up the energy a little bit more from where it's at. But yeah, overall, really solid work, really digging the vibe of it. Nice and minimal without being boring. It has like a nice like emotional quality to it. So yeah, I'm digging it. Chat, any other ideas, comments, questions? Let us know. On top of that, if anybody else is just joining us and would like to send in a track, you can click on the link pinned up at the top of the chat. That takes you to the spreadsheet. That's where you send me your link. And as far as I'm aware, the next track from Jason is the last one in the spreadsheet. So if you send me your track now, you will be immediately after this song. And thank you all you guys for coming by, hanging out, sending me these tracks. That's what makes this whole stream worthwhile. This is what I like to see. 10 minutes old track, nice and fresh. I'm gonna turn this up a little bit more. Nice. Really solid work here. I feel like this is a really great example of good use of space and time, meaning that like there's lots of negative space here. There's a lot of like silence, and then you fill it really nicely with time-based effects, things like reverbs and delays. I think that I've been hearing a lot of tracks, on these Wednesday streams of people who are just like cranking up reverbs and cranking up delays without any thought of kind of like how that's going to play into the space of the song. And this is a really nice example of like using space here so that when things do echo out, there's space to hear those echoes, and those echoes are actually valuable and meaningful to the sound as opposed to just being more layers of sound that happen to be there. So really nice work on that. And I think conceptually, I like the sounds a lot. It has this very kind of like minimal kind of feel to it. Layering is really nice. I think all the synth sounds and all the organic sounds work really well together. Everything kind of complements each other in a really nice way. A couple of things that I think you should probably take a look at. Number one, I'm going to give you a homework assignment, Jason. Try writing a track that is less than 3 minutes long. Not that I think this was especially too long, but I noticed this is kind of like the length of the song that you make. And so I'm curious if you switch it up a little bit and try writing something shorter, and then you're forced to kind of like, it seems like you have lots of ideas, right? So your ideas expand out to being, 5.5, 6 minutes long. But what if you took the same amount of ideas, crammed it into a 3-minute arrangement, and like, how would you make that work? Yeah, try it out. See if that changes some of the decision-making process and some of the choices you make when you're writing a track. Because I do feel like this track feels a little bit long to me. I feel like you could get away with the same thing in 4 minutes and it would probably be more powerful. But that's, again, that might be a genre thing. That might be a style thing. I do like really long songs, but I think it'd be curious because I'm curious to see what would happen if you tried making something with a time restriction on how long the song can be. Other than that, a couple kind of like minor things. This is also might be a personal preference thing more than anything else. What's up, Mr. Starbeast? How you doing? You start off with the filtered kick. I'm not in love with the filtered kick as a concept. It's not necessarily this implementation of the filtered kick, but I feel like you might be better off not having any kick, and you have the hats kind of build it up, and then the kick comes in full volume here with everything else. So that might be a personal preference thing more than anything else. If you like the kind of filtered kick moving into the actual drum beat, go for it. In my personal preference, I kind of like it better when we get none of the kick and then we get it full blast. So try it out, see if you like it better or not. Yeah, and then like all these elements work really well together. Has this nice kind of like minimal, almost kind of like cyberpunk kind of techno feel to it. Piano's great. Yeah, all these parts are amazing. I guess I feel like the one other big thing that I would be really looking for in a track like this is some kind of energetic crescendo. I feel like all these sounds are really cool and the vibe is really cool, but it's very like straightforward in terms of the energy level. It's like it stays really chill, and that might be your goal. That might be what you want. I kind of like it when you have a song like this where you kind of like get in a vibe of it sounding a certain way, and then it kind of like builds up in energy as the song goes on. And I think this section right here, if you added a few more layers and some things in like higher frequencies, be a cool way to like build into a climax as opposed to just kind of like you're like building up and then you kind of just plateau and then you dip down in energy here and you go back to the plateau. So I think making this last section more epic could be really cool. That's probably what I would do if this is my track. If you want the whole thing to stay super minimal, then yeah, that might be a personal preference thing as well. But yeah, I like these sounds a lot. I think they sound really cool. That pad sound that's in the background, the kind of like high frequency pad, that could maybe have a little bit more of like a texture to it. Toss some more effects on that. Could be kind of nice. But yeah, overall, I think it sounded really cool. It's a cool concept, executed very well. It's just a few things that, I might do a little different than you. Chat, you got any other ideas, questions, comments? The thing I always like to recommend people when they are thinking about feedback is be thinking about if this is your track, what do you do to it? A lot of people think like feedback has to be like really technical, but it can be like, oh, you know what, I would rather do, this thing, and that can be really useful for people to hear. All right, let me make sure YouTube's not giving me issues. Give me 1 second. All right, should be good. Yeah, no worries, Jason. I appreciate you sending me tracks. Sweet. So we got a track from Granny Laser, or from Mr. Starbeat. Granny Later. I wanted to say Granny Laser because Granny Laser sounds awesome. Also 4 minutes old. Perfect. This is what I like to see. I'm gonna start judging people on how long their song has been up on SoundCloud. No worries, Jason. Thanks for popping by. Sounds dope. I love it. Fantastic work here. Really solid work on the drums. They sound like nice and thick. Kind of remind me of some like old school Amon Tobin kind of drum beats. Yeah, real kind of juicy. Almost kind of reminds me a little bit of like what am I thinking of? Joker. A little bit of Joker vibes on this a little bit. Yeah, sounds really good. Only a couple really kind of minor things, mostly in the mix, that I think could use a little bit of love here, but I'm digging this quite a bit. So to start off, I think there's like your main kind of like your granular atmospheric sound that's going on that has like it's very kind of sidechained kind of sound. A little bit too loud. I think if you turn that down a little bit, I think that'll make the beat hit a little harder. And then this very kind of, I don't know, scratchy, granular sound that comes in, that could be a little bit louder and maybe a little bit less processed. Like I kind of want that to almost feel like the guitar solo or something like that. And right now it's just like, it's getting washed up by, it's getting eaten up by like a lot of the other sounds that are happening there. So make that sound a little more present in the mix, maybe a little bit less processed, and that way it can be kind of like your lead sound. This part's cool. Same thing here. Some of your, what I would consider more kind of like atmospheric sounds are really present in the mix. Dial those back a little bit, and that way the new sound that comes in here can get its time to shine. If you wanted to, you could get a little bit more distorted on the bass during this part to help kind of like bring out some of the griminess there. And then the other thing I think about this section here is that I like it, I love it, but it could use some more kind of like drum fills, like little things to break it up, like you did over here. That little break right there, it's subtle, but it's very meaningful in terms of how the song progresses. And little breaks like that, little edits, that to help kind of break up this section a little bit, I think will be really, really, like that'll be like the last little thing you need to do. But yeah, other than that, the same kind of stuff I said about the mix applies over here. Some of your background, more atmospheric sounds, turn them down a little bit, and that way your main kind of sounds really shine through. Yeah, and then same thing here with the kind of like the scratchy, granular sound that comes in. Like really make that present, really make that audible. And like I said, I think it'll act kind of like a guitar solo kind of sound. Yeah, that's basically it. Some more fills, a little bit of polishing on the mix, then other than that, I really like it. Really cool use of using this kind of like hip-hop-y kind of beat, this like very kind of old school bass line with these very kind of like weird abstract sounds. And I think that like, to me, when somebody can mix like abstract, weird, granular, noisy things with things that really kind of groove, you get this really nice combination where it's like, it's very strange, but like undeniably cool. So yeah, really digging it. Sweet, yeah, so really solid work as always. Once again, thank all you guys for sending me your tracks. They've been really awesome, you know, this week and every week. I'm always super impressed with what you guys are bringing in here. And I believe at this point, we are all caught up on the tracks in the spreadsheet. So I'm gonna hang out for a little while longer and see if anybody else pops in the next couple minutes to share a track. But other than that, I will be back on Monday. Yeah, if you got another one, I'll hang out for a few minutes if you want to toss another one in there, Mr. Starbeast. I'll be back on Monday for an office hour stream. And then on Tuesday, I do my Patreon only production stream where I hang out and make music. You can check out the Patreon linked below. And then of course, next Wednesday, I'll be back, same time, same place, listening to your tracks. All right, let me pull up another one from Mr. Starbeast. guitar solo. I love it. I feel like every dubstep-ish song needs a guitar solo. Nice, the guitar solo sounds dope. I really like it. Yeah, another one. Love it. Fantastic work here. Really, really solid. A couple minor things I might change, but overall, super high energy without, like, I don't know, sounding cheesy, which I think is something it starts to do. You like seamlessly go back and forth between this kind of like neuro drum and bass to this more kind of like dubstep-y kind of style. Also fantastic work. Yeah, and plus it has a guitar solo, which is really all you need in this kind of song. Off the top of my head, a couple things that might need a little bit of love. I feel like the intro feels a little bit short to me. It kind of just like drops you right in, which I think is a cool creative choice. But I think you could really like play with this bop it thing for a bit longer before you go into the build, because it's a super cool concept, and I think that if, like, you know, if this was a little bit longer, it might be a cool way to like explore that sound a little bit more, play around with it, and then like really hype up the build into the first kind of drum and bass drop. Yeah, I like the guitar here a lot too. The bop it sample could be louder during the drop though.
Yeah.
Love that break. Yeah, the drum and bassy drums here are fantastic, sounding really top notch. Into the kind of like dubstep-y part, also great. I think you could dial back the reverb on that vocal a little bit, as well as give the reverb a little bit more volume, but love it other than that. This part is really cool. I think when you have like a really quick, choppy vocal sample like that, you can make it really loud and it brings in a lot of energy to the track in a lot of situations. Yeah, more volume on the bobbit vocal the whole way through. I do feel like the arrangement, you know, up until here, feels like it's kind of like, all right, you go intro into drum and bass, into dubstep, back to drum and bass, back to dubstep. So you're kind of going like intro A, B. And I do feel like the A and the B feel a little bit repetitive when they're kind of back to back like that, like the A, B, and then the A, B again. So maybe switch up some of the sounds in the second A-B. That could be helpful. They don't need to be like a totally new section, but like, you know, a little more variation on them, I think would be really nice. All right, and then you get this kind of like pseudo break section here. I think it'd be really cool to hear this either without the bass, so it's just the drums and then the arpeggiated part, or without the drums, it's just bass and arpeggiated part. Or if you want to get really minimal with it, drop both the drums and the bass and make it just the arpeggiated part. I think that'll help the energy shift go from like, you know, lots of sounds happening to very minimal number of sounds happening back to lots of sounds happening, as opposed to lots of sounds happening to medium number of sounds happening back to lots of sounds happening. Love those builds. You could put like a half bar of silence in there in between these two, and that could be kind of nice. You have like just a little bit of silence, which I think works, but you could really play with that silence, play with that negative space before you go into the guitar solo drop. Not totally necessary, but something to look into, see how it sounds. But yeah, other than that, love a guitar solo, love this final section here. Maybe even a little bit more volume on the guitar solo. Yeah, and then the like wave crashing kind of outro is really good too. But yeah, really, really nice work here. I'm digging it quite a bit. I love how your style feels like you have like a very specific style to you, but it's not a genre. Like you do lots of different things that all feel like they live together, even though they're different tempos, different beats, you know, drum and bass, dubstep, hip hoppy kind of stuff. You got a lot of range with your productions, which is really awesome to hear. Sweet. So I think that's all. I think that's everything we got, at least in terms of songs in the spreadsheet. Once again, big shout out to everybody who sent in a track. They've been awesome. Love hearing them. I will be back obviously next Wednesday for another feedback stream. So if you got new tracks, I am super stoked to hear them next week as well. But yeah, I think that's going to be it. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your week, weekend, evening, afternoon, whatever time it is, wherever you are. I will see you again very shortly, and yeah, thanks for popping by.